We've seen tons of vampire movies in the last few years. Funny vampires, deadly vampires, you name them. But who among them are the most powerful? For that, we've made a list of the 10 strongest vampires of all time. Let's begin. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Punish me, torture me, but let me live. I can't die with all...
Count Dracula. Dracula, 1931. When you think of the word vampire, the guy who pops into your head should be Bela Lugosi. I mean, he's one of the originals, the one everyone else copied. And the thing is, he was a foreign aristocrat, and his power was psychological. Trust me on this, he wrote the playbook for every movie vampire that came after. He's an ancient count who happens to be stuck in his rotting castle in the middle of nowhere. The place is a mess, but more importantly, he's run out of people to bite. So what should a vampire do in this case? Move to a big bustling city like London, of course. He tricks a real estate agent named Renfield into helping him book a trip to England. He wants to slip into the city and spread his curse one victim at a time, building his own little army of the undead. His main weapon is his famous stare. He could just look at someone and turn them into his own personal puppet. He does it to Renfield, and he even tries to pull it on Van Helsing, which shows you how confident this guy is. And to top it all off, he can shapeshift into a bat and a wolf. Although the wolf transformation was heavily implied, we'll believe it. He can even just poof into mist. But even with all that, his deadliest weapon was his charm. Count Vladislaus Dracula, Van Helsing, 2004. This version is a whole different beast. This is someone who literally sold his soul to the devil for his power. Vladislaus Dracula is an immortal general with monster armies, all thanks to a deal he made 400 years ago. He was born in the 1400s, and after he was murdered, the devil himself showed up and offered him a second chance at life. But as a vampire, he said yes, becoming the very first one. His family was so horrified that they made a holy vow to hunt him down. And here's the catch. None of them can get into heaven until one of them finally kills the monster they created. So for centuries, he's been at war with his own relatives. But his main obsession is finding a way to bring thousands of dead, bat-like children to life. And the key to doing that is Frankenstein's monster, whose creation is the only thing that can jumpstart his undead family. So that's what's common between Vladislaus Dracula and Dominic Toretto. They'd do anything for their family. Coming to his powers, the usual vampire weaknesses like stakes, silver, and even sunlight don't work on him. To put it in simple terms, he's unkillable by normal means. On top of that, he has 3 loyal vampire brides, an army of little servants, and even a werewolf working for him. And he can fly without even having to turn into a bat. But his ultimate move is when he drops the human disguise and transforms into a massive demonic bat. There's only one thing in the world that can stop him for good: the bite of a werewolf. Marcus Corvinus, Underworld, 2006. His dad was the first immortal ever, and in the 5th century, Marcus was the son of a Hungarian warlord. A plague hits, he survives, and then gets bitten by a bat. Because of his ancestors' immortal genes, the bite turns him into a vampire. At the same time, his twin brother William gets bitten by a wolf and he becomes a werewolf, or a lichen. Marcus then turns Victor into a vampire to help him build an army to control his feral brother. But Victor totally screwed Marcus, locked William away in a secret prison, and took over. So when Marcus finally wakes up in the modern world, he has one single mission: to find his brother, set him free, and let the werewolf plague run wild so they can rule a new world together. Marcus makes other ancient vampires like Victor look weak. He's got giant wings that sprout out of his back, letting him fly around at terrifying speeds. And then he gets a power-up. He becomes a hybrid, a mix of vampire and lichen, which gives him retractable claws and makes him even more ferocious. But his coolest and most dangerous aspect is called blood memory. When he drinks someone's blood, he instantly downloads all of their recent thoughts and memories. It's how he gets his info. Akasha, Queen of the Damned, 2002. So the last ones were kings and lords, but this one, she's a goddess. Akasha's age isn't measured in centuries, but in thousands of years. It's a potential apocalypse for the entire human race. Just like Walter White said, "I'm not in danger, I am the danger." You could say that Akasha is not cursed, she is the curse. When it comes to power, she's basically in God mode. Keep in mind that almost nothing can hurt her. She can walk around in the sun and barely gets a sunburn. And she moves so fast, it looks like she's teleporting and can throw things around with her mind. If you think all of this is a bit too much, then check this out. She can make other vampires explode with just a thought. Since they all share her blood, she can just point a finger and they turn to ash. You have to go back over 6,000 years to ancient Egypt, where she was a cruel and power-hungry queen. She forced a couple of witches to conjure up a blood spirit, but it backfired big time. When the queen was dying, the spirit took its revenge by fusing with her body, and boom, a vampire was born. The Great Thirst began, and anyone who drank her blood became a vampire too, connected to her forever. For literally a millennia, she just sat on her throne throne like a living statue, while other vampires ran the world. She only gets up with a simple plan to kill almost every man on Earth and rule over the women and children as their living, breathing, merciless god. Lestat de Lioncourt, Interview with the Vampire, 1994. People call him the Brat Prince, and it fits perfectly. He does whatever he wants, whenever he wants. But he's also charming, even though he's a monster. His story starts in 18th century France. He was a young nobleman, but he hated his aristocratic life. Then, out of nowhere, he gets snatched and turned into a vampire by a really old hermit-like vampire. And this leaves Lestat with so much power and absolutely no rulebook. But Lestat, being Lestat, just rolls with it. He embraces the drama, turning a heartbroken man named Louis and a little orphan girl named Claudia to create his own family. He treats them like actors in his own eternal play. He can also easily read people's minds, a trick he loves to use to pick his victims, and even more, to constantly torment poor Louis. Honestly though, his biggest strength is his personality. Lestat is just so seductive and witty that he sucks you right in, pun intended. You're fascinated by him long before you realize he's a monster. And did I mention that he's hard to kill? He's had his throat slit and been set on fire and still managed to come back. Deacon Frost, Blade, 1998. Deacon Frost is the new generation of vampires, a modern, ambitious guy who scoffs at vampire tradition. In his world, you have purebloods who were born vampires, and then you have people like Deacon Frost, who were human and got turned into vampires. The vampire elders see him as an inferior nobody, and that disrespect is the fuel for his entire fire. He completely rejects their old school rules about hiding from humanity. His master plan is to perform a huge ritual that needs two things: the blood of a daywalker like Blade, and the sacrifice of 12 pure-blood leaders. If he pulls it off, he gets to absorb the power of the blood god himself. Regardless of this ritual, Frost is not a joke. He's a leader and a damn good fighter, who can actually hold his own against Blade. He can heal instantly from literally any wound. Count von Krolock, The Fearless Vampire Killers, 1967. With Count von Krolock, we're going back to basics. He runs his remote snowy castle in Transylvania with his son Herbert. When a bumbling professor and his young assistant Alfred stumble upon his home, he pretends to be a welcoming host, but obviously it's all an act. His real goal is to get ready for the annual Grand Ball, where vampires from all over come to his castle to celebrate and feed. And he's got his eyes on Sarah, the local innkeeper's daughter. As the guest of honor, he plans to turn for the big night. He's clearly a big deal in the vampire community. I mean, vampires from all over the continent just come to his party, so you know he's high up on the food chain. He's the undisputed king of his castle and the area around it, and other vampires both fear and respect him. Jan Valick, John Carpenter's Vampires, 1998. Picture this. It's the 14th century, and Jan Valick is a priest who gets accused of heresy during the Inquisition. He leads a rebellion, and the church decides to get creative with his punishment. They do a reverse exorcism on him, and it all goes horribly wrong. And instead, Valick turns into a vampire. Now he's cursed to stay out of the sun, and the 6 other priests who were there with him became his original crew. Ever since, they've had their eyes on finding a relic called the Black Cross. It's the key to finishing the ritual and letting them all walk in the daylight. Jan Valick is insanely strong and fast, and his small crew have a cool psychic link that lets them fight as one and even feel when one of them is killed. On top of that, he's a master planner. You don't survive for 600 years with Vatican slayers on your tail by being dumb. And if he gets that Black Cross, he cracks the code. He becomes the first vampire lord who can walk in the sun. That would completely change the game and give him and his crew a green light to hunt around the clock and take over everything. Count Orlock, Nosferatu, 1922. Count Orlock is the complete opposite of charming and handsome. He's not a smooth-talking aristocrat, but an ugly rat-like thing, like a walking plague in a coat. Nobody really knows what he is or where he came from. He's just holed up in a desolate castle in the mountains. He ends up hiring a real estate agent to buy a house in a normal German city. But the trip over on the ship was a complete horror show. One by one, he kills the entire crew. And when he finally arrives in town, he brings a swarm of rats with him. And a plague starts spreading immediately. See, he's not after an empire or anything. He just needs a new place to feed and spread his awful corruption. He can make doors fly open just by thinking about it, and lifts coffins like they're nothing. But his real selling point is that he is the plague. He's a walking biohazard, and he doesn't try to seduce anyone. People are just paralyzed with absolute terror. He's less of a villain and more of a natural disaster, and his only followers are the rats and diseases he brings with him. David Williams, The Lost Boys, 1987. David is the ultimate 80s punk rock vampire. His kingdom is the neon-lit boardwalk of a California beach town. and his followers are his gang of lost boys. Here's the thing, David was actually turned by Max, who runs the local video store. Max wanted a family, and David became his main guy on the street, or should I say the leader of the pack. So he's both the boss and the recruiter, and he preys on newcomers and kids who feel like they don't fit in. He sells you on the idea that being a vampire is just one big endless party with no rules and no parents. David is a tough fighter and can take a punch. Just look at how he plays Michael. He grooms him and offers him a sense of belonging until Michael wants to become one of them. He tricks him into drinking the blood. This tells us that David's most important power is manipulation. Marvelous verdict. And that's our list. Look, a top 10 is never the definitive answer. So we've got one question for you. Who's your undisputed number 1, and why is everybody else wrong? We'll be hanging out down there reading through your comments. And stick around for more such videos. Thanks!